Hey, Maddie, what are we talking about today?
Well, Michelle, it's summertime, and that means if you are a rising senior, it is time to start applying to college for realsies. I am going to give you a crash course, not on the entire process itself, but how to get going. If you want to be applying to college, it is time to start. It's very clear. How? That's what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome.
Michelle, we're filming this in early-ish July. It'll probably be out late July. That means you and I have been working for about over a month at this point, like
hmm
actually, and we really do get working. We start with students basically June 12th this year is when we got going, and it is, if anything, I would say the summer is actually possibly the busiest time that we're working. It's like we're getting a ton of work done, and it's some combination of even though nothing's due until November until November 1st or November 30th or January 1st for some students. Basically, this is my now 7th year doing this, and I think we had 2 separate episodes that basically turned into me going on like manic tangents about timelines about how to get into college,
Yeah.
and that's because a core aspect of getting good at my job has been understanding that even though things are due many, many, many months from now, and it's a large amount of, like, things that can be done anytime, that without, like, kind of a plan or a schedule and without the right mindset, like, dare I say, manic fear, that you it is very easy to end up pushing a deadline and things just aren't done in time.
Yeah, so true.
And that is why it is this process is too important. The results are too important to not take it as seriously as you need to. And part of taking it seriously is understanding you need to get working months ahead of time. Like that is, I feel very
Right.
strongly about that. It's like if you are a rising senior, if you're listening to this, it's still summertime and you have not really gotten started. And but honestly, if you have like dreams of attending elite universities, you need to get going. You really do. Because
hmm
if you don't, you're going to wake up and things there could be I've done this 2 episodes about that. I'm not gonna do a third. This is the third episode where I say, like, you have to have a plan. But okay, but the plan is shortly, what we do. We start with the University of California work in June and July. That's what we're doing right now. Then in August, I'm doing the personal statement with students. And in September and October, we do everything else that is needed for all the early schools. That's often a lot of, you're doing Michigan at that point, right?
Right.
November, we get to the early deadline. We then go back to the UCs and begin regular decision stuff. Anything November is like kind of a chiller month. It's the first month that is like, okay, we reached the hardest part. Okay,
hmm
but then December, it is a little bit more chilling, but then regular season stuff, especially if the early school doesn't work out. And so it's like, even with this plan, starting in summer, working every week, twice a week, it still ends with the last 2 weeks we do everything.
That's true. That's true.
So I don't know how to a better way to explain it. That even doing this, you're going to be like the professional who freaks out about this. The entire plan is based on the fact it's like, oh, I'll just work every day for the last 2 weeks of December, and then maybe it'll work, hopefully.
Right.
So what the hell does that mean for someone else that if you aren't starting this early, like that's the problem. Those last 2 weeks become insurmountable. You can't do it because I know how much you still need to do in December, even if you do this perfectly. Ugh, okay, that's not what this essay is about. That's not what this essay is about. Right. So the short answer is okay. I hope I've scared someone into starting. What do you need? Like, okay, what should you do? What should you do? Well, I believe a good goal is to have your personal statement done by the start of your senior year. I think that is a sound, logical advice. And
Yeah.
you can start, yes, it helps you start in June, but even if you're finding this in early or mid-August, like the next few, like the rest of your summer, you're not doing much, is like this is the right time to get going. Or early in your senior year, by the start of football season. Like it's not this episode. This is something okay, so how do you do that, right? The first I put is what you should not be doing right now, like in the summer, because I think this is equally important that a lot of students fall for these traps. The first is putting off things till later. And I this is not
Yeah.
this episode. I'm gonna say it one more time. Yes, it's very easy to look at dates and be like, well, I don't know, it's due in November. It's in November. You just can't do that. If you're
hmm
watching this, you obviously care. Like that. That's like two or B was falling for the productivity trap, and this is the one that I found the most interesting. A productivity trap is like creating, like taking, t- filling out notes about what you're going to do today, or watching motivational videos, like a
Oh,
dopamine
yeah.
trap type thing. And that hits super hard in this process in particular because it is scary, it is overwhelming, and there's a lot that has to be done. It's hard to tell like when. So here are all a list of things that I know students are probably are doing like around now. That isn't actually that helpful for applying to college. College list building, college research in general, attending essay training seminars, watching podcasts like this one, filling out essay topic questionnaires, asking for feedback from us on your ideas, reading literature because you think will magically make you a better writer. Like those are all things that are not very helpful or productive.
Time sinks.
Yeah, they're time sinks and they're traps because they
hmm
create the illusion that you are on your way to become like applying and getting into schools. No, you're not. Like I don't know, like this. like college, like all this stuff, like stuff like colleges building and learning how to write essay stuff, that it helps. I guess that's important, but it's not important right now. Like you know, it doesn't matter where you're applying, especially in my philosophy. Yeah, anything that makes you feel like you're applying to college, actually applying is just wasting your time. And I put it here one caveat: if you really want to do something productive that is not getting going on essay writing, it is create a resume. Because that is
Mm,
the one
mhm.
aspect, and I know that's the first thing you do with students.
Right.
If you don't want to write an essay, the one thing you can do that's not writing an essay that will help is sit down and create a pretty detailed resume that encompasses everything you have completed in high school. And basically, because that I know that material is helpful, and you'll be using that material over and over again, if
Right.
either to write about it or just for extracurricular work. But in general, when I say get going, if a student is like I'm working, that means they are creating and filling out. They're creating content that they will one day, like hopefully, send a version to schools. Like that is
Mhm.
what go. When I say getting going, I mean you just start writing essays, children. That is like the short and specific type of essays. Okay, and the third one I think students do wrong is starting that essay writing process with the Common App personal statement. And
Yeah.
this one I think students will find interesting is this one I totally get, and I did the same thing when I started my career. That is okay. Like you're now applying to college. Well, there's this big essay that every school wants. So it seems logical that I do that first. And I even said you want that done by football season, or and your school's having you look at it. This one I totally get. This one is not. This one's it's not even really a trap because yeah, like this totally is working towards applying to schools, and if you nail it, great. However, it's a flawed idea. The line here is Michelle. What's the most important moment of your life, and what did it mean, and also this has to get you into college. Like go,
Oh
do it,
my
do it, do
gosh.
it, do it, do it, do it. That is what it's like to start the personal statement. I think that's part of why students get so overwhelmed by this process. The personal statement is the hardest part of this entire process. I spent an entire month on it with students. I want to die. Like August is not a fun month for me. I'm already like afraid of it. But a lot of that is I make it as easy and functional as possible to get there. I work with students, have a couple of ideas. Like I am not the guy who I tried it, as a start the personal statement, and it's really hard. It's really
Mhm.
hard as someone who has a lot more like understanding of how to create like a really complicated piece of writing that needs to be. It's really important. It was really hard, and what it led to was the actual topics were hit or miss at best, I guess. Like the writing was sound. I was able to pull that together, but also I know how to write professionally. And I don't know if students like a lot of students, I had to do a lot more back end help on the actual writing ability because they didn't even know how to write the damn thing. They never written like this.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more back end stuff as well that, but also just the topics. Some were cool, some were not. But what happened many, many, many times is we would then move on to the supplements. We move on to the shorter essays. And at least more than half the students, I was like, this should have been the personal statement topic. It
Mm.
sucks. Yeah. And it makes sense because I continue to learn more about them. They continue to better understand their
Right.
their past and put it together in a way that it was that, and also it was that, and also I realized the personal statement like didn't really mesh with the supplements either. I was like there was no strategy because we just did the best essay we could and spent a bunch of time refining it, and then we figured everything else out on the back end, and it just didn't work right. So, and I also just put for deep don't do is free writing. Like I don't like free writing. The free writing is what people who don't know how to write like tell you is writing advice from them. That and read more books. Like those are two pieces of advice you'll get from non-writers on how to write better. Don't free write. You have to write things that matter. What should you be doing instead? And my advice is and what I actually do to students is you should begin the college application process by writing actual essays from actual supplements for actual schools you wish to attend and plan to be applying to. And there's two ways to do that. So I actually the easiest is you can go online and look up the supplement list for the schools you want to apply to. And
Mhm.
you may or may not you'll be finding this in you find this in late July. Like by August 1st is usually when school supplements like refresh for the year.
Oh, yeah.
So that timeline works pretty well. I wish they refreshed earlier, but they don't. However, if they don't exist, you can probably get away with looking up last year's supplements. And if you except if like the Supreme Court makes any big decisions, schools supplements are more similar than not from year to year, is my experience. Like you may get caught having to redo some stuff, but the even if you do, like they're not like even the topics are pretty similar. I put here schools that I can recommend. It would be Texas, MIT, and USC. Those are three
Mhm.
schools with supplements that they tend to be like a good variety of like 200 to 200 to 300 word questions that are pretty straightforward that are going to one way or another force you to think about and create the exact type of content that schools are kind of looking for. And that's another part of this. You start with the personal statement, you can do anything, and it's hard to know what the schools even want. Well, it's much easier when you're applying to MIT and they're asking like, would you talk about like a academic passion that inspires you, stuff like that. Like, oh, okay, they want me to write about this. Well, they do, and like that kind of stuff is what schools want. The supplements are guided in a way that makes it much easier. They're more specific as well. Like it's like a guided writing structure, but also it's much more obvious. It'll make it much more obvious what kind of topics these schools even want to hear about in the first place. And it's a lot of
Mhm.
academics, what you're passionate about, what you want to be doing with that, with it. And I put Texas, MIT, and USC, and I know for a fact that Texas and MIT like never change their supplements. MIT just changes the word count every year. USC is a little bit, but I also realized that these are just three schools that have early admissions policies, and that's why these are the ones I go with. I thought that was
Oh,
interesting,
okay.
and it's
Yeah.
because these ones are the early schools. These are the ones that I do over and over and over again. Like, yeah, these are all. This is when I'm actually making new content with students because after the personal statement, it's like when we do early school stuff. So like my guess is that any school will be fine. Like Stanford, like just look at the schools that you're like, and I recommend one that you'd like to go to but don't really care about because it's less pressure. So if you pick a
Yeah.
Stanford or Yale, like Stanford and Yale would have like very good supplements to fill out. But if you really want to go to Stanford or Yale, you're going to get the same kind of paralyzation, like, oh, it has to be perfect, and it really doesn't. So basically, just yeah, you just look up your school list or supplements and see if you can find one from this year or last year with ones that seem kind of fun. You have an idea for, because what then going to do is actually write the supplement. You're like as you would be sending it. So that involves figuring out the topic and then writing it, editing it, getting it down to word count. Like do your very best. It was almost like it had to go out first, and then do it again. Like the other topic, but that one inherently is going to be about a different subject because you don't want to write about the same thing. So you then write about it, and then another one, and if you do the entirety of the Yale or Stanford or MIT, you'll end up with 5 or 6 different essays of varying lengths about varying topics, and I guarantee you will have learned a good amount about the college admissions process in doing so. Like in just simply going
Yeah.
through it and having to actually do all the work, you'll have a better idea of what it's actually like to write a college essay. You'll have kind of had some exposure therapy. You realize it's not that terrifying because it's a lot easier to write 200 words that asks you like write about your favorite hobby than it is to write, like the Common App stuff. And then if you have more ideas, go to another school, and then you have more ideas, go to another school. I'll jump to what this is leading to after like the part, or instead of MIT, you could do the UCs, Michelle. Like let's talk about the
Exact.
University of
Yes.
let's talk about the University of California questionnaires. I bring up the it's the same philosophy of why this is helpful. However, literally every student we work with, no matter where they are from, whether no matter how much they actually wish to attend or even plan to apply to the University of California system, does the nearly the entire UC application.
Mhm.
And that is because both of us independently have figured out that it is the most reliable, consistent way to get going with students, to build content that we will then use elsewhere and possibly in a more productive or like real manner.
Right.
And this is my honest advice to you. It's like whether you live in California, whether you care or not, the way I do it and what I highly recommend is you load up the University of California 8 school supplements. And the UCs are very helpful for this because of a few rules. They offer 8 questions of I think pretty high quality, and they want you to answer 4 of them. So you're not forced to write about anything. Of those 4 answers, they want 4 350-word answers. And in particular, the UC style is they want pretty straightforward, like you're answering a job interview question. So they don't want like flowy language or analogies or anything. They just want you to like answer the question straightforward, and they can be boring. It doesn't matter. I just want to hear it. The other is that they in particular want all of your questions to be about a completely separate topic. They want you to be well rounded, in that they don't want 4 tech essays. They don't want 4 sports essays. They want 4 different, very different aspects of it. And the questions do a good job of forcing you to do that because they're nothing else. They're very different questions, except for 4, which
Mhm.
is the same as 5 and 6. But that's like insider stuff. So yeah, like it's honestly it's almost easier if you don't care about the UCs to do it this way because like the goal of this is some exposure therapy. I want students writing stuff that they try and they don't have that deep pitting fear of I have to nail this, because you really
Yes.
don't. And it's a combination of it's schools that you may or like hopefully don't care that much about, but also you can and will go back and actually write these later, or like this is not what you're actually sending. Like that is a huge aspect of getting over the fear of applying, is like, okay, fine, instead of having to figure out this whole 650-word essay and figure out if the topic's right, or if I'm writing about something silly or whatever, I'm just gonna write 350 words about my favorite hobby. Like I'm really good at chess, so I'm gonna write about chess and how I'm good at it. That's
Mhm.
that is so much easier mentally to comprehend and to actually go ahead and apply. Like like if you want, you can break these out. They should be like maybe an hour to write each, maybe, and then another hour to really polish them and think about them. Because that is yeah, that's they don't have to be perfect. They just have to be done. And I think it's
Yeah.
important to like edit them and get them down to 350 words, because then you're going to be sitting there with And also, if something's not working, an idea sucks, you don't like it, trash it. Like don't force anything. Just get rid of it and go answer another question or try a different one because that is the key. And you can hold on to everything you write, but like this is meant to be just like keep make creates. Like the professional writer is telling you have to create writing to get writing done. Like it's just hard.
Right.
Okay, the goal isn't nail anything. It's instead to expose yourself to the process while simultaneously creating as much real college admissions content as you can. Yes. So if you've done it correctly, you should now be sitting there with somewhere between, I don't know, 3 to 6 completed essays and hopefully over 1,000 words of a variety of different content that some of it will be better than others, and that's the point, and is only by doing the whole process and editing and revising it that you can read it and trust your gut essentially of what stuff you like, like it goes back to the what does it say about you and does it, do you think it'll get you into college? Like, do you have any huge red flags about it? If you don't, that's good. I was like, okay, yeah, like this is this one doesn't make me cringe is often kind of the way that it can manifest. And yeah, usually there'll be one, two, or three essays that are just better than the rest of them. Okay.
Yeah.
Now those are going to become like core foundational building blocks towards your actual application. It's like now we can pull back the math and say none of this work you've done has actually been it was free writing all the time, Michelle. It was free writing all the time. Just extremely confident guided free writing that you absolutely can and will use and copy and paste quite a bit, but it's always free writing. Now we jump to the second part. Is like you have this work that's done and you like it. Well, why do you like it? Like what themes are within it? What are you finding interesting? And here's where you could sit down and like yeah, we were it's dopamine trap all the time. It's like well, you can actually write out like well, what about this essay is good? Like what themes are presented? Like what extracurriculars are talking about? What does it say about me? All the stuff that you I think it's foolish to try to like think of beforehand and then write because that's not how I understood writing. It's much easier in hindsight. You can look at what you read, and the one you like, and then write down. It's like, okay, so what is this actually saying about me? How is it effective for college? All that
Yeah.
stuff is much easier to transcribe out of the piece. That is that work. It should then basically this is your personal statement, and the personal statement tends to either be just a second longer, like beefier draft of someone's favorite short answer, and those are the easy ones, I suppose. Where yeah, like I remember last year there was one student who wrote a really wonderful essay about how much she loved books, and I was like, it was pretty
Hmm.
straightforward, and I was like, awesome, I was like, this is gonna be it, and all the personal statement was it was very easy. It was just I guess adding more literary flair to it instead of like she likes books, she collects them. It was important. For her. Now she's a wizard. It's basically the twist on it. And yeah, it's like you have a 350 word draft, you get an extra 300 words. Well, yes, honestly, if you really draft, like just I'm sure you can add 300 more words. Bring some stuff you cut out of it. There's a lot. It's much
Hmm.
easier to I think build up on something you already like on the foundation of it because you have the skeleton of it than it would be to I guess yeah, that process is effective and makes sense, and it makes sense for students over and over and over again in a way that is just makes it so much easier on them than like okay, like we got to come up with this great idea. It's like it's no, it's like you already just write something that's cool, and the one you like that is probably the best idea because like that is
Yeah.
sound. And if you don't like anything, keep going, like keep creating drafts. And you can write different multiple essays for the same topic. I don't care. You're just creating. It's free writing, Michelle. We're free writing here. So like the other option is kind of what I specialize in that I would say the majority of personal statement topics and essays, they are some combination of supplements that we have done for the UCs. That it's off. Bring up here. It's the X of Y. So it's often there's a student does an essay about uh, she plays tennis. Why she's really into tennis. Then she does an essay about her interest in physics, right? And I swear to God, we're at this point in the season, I asked, "So you ever use physics in tennis?" And
Yeah.
yeah, and I know I've mentioned that, and I feel like, do I actually say that? Yes, I actually say that
Hmm.
because I've reached that point in the calendar season, and then I'd be like, okay, I said like you have a dog, cool, dogs, like you like fishing. Well, you go fishing with the dog? You go fishing with the dog ever? And they go and there's always two reactions. One is oh, I don't know. Or it's like, yeah, like, no, we love it. And then we're off. And there's actually probably the most famous thing I wrote was a thing called Half Ideas. Like that was the real impetus of it, where a good topic, literary topics rarely are about just one thing. It's really about just winning the big game. Nor is it just about how supportive you are as a person. Like those are kind of
Hmm.
dry, straightforward essay concepts. Instead, almost always it is about a mixture of well, theming, place, setting, as well as analysis and takeaway. It's a lot of different concepts to like what makes effective writing, and that's why probably the easiest way to like, kind of hack your way to being like a professional writer style is to have made those building blocks is what all this stuff really is, both in like you're getting down your core ideas as well as is a lot of the stuff that yes, I think most students was just like they know the kind of stuff that schools want. You know, they want you to talk about yourself. They want you to showcase your passions and your strengths, stuff like that. It's all true. But like how you do so is well, like the UCs just want you to do that piecemeal already, and that's what makes it so
Right.
helpful about it. Yeah. Then you have your list of essays, and that does require some thinking, I suppose. Like, okay, so how like these random separate things I've talked about, like, is there any patterns that are noticeable or any particular overlap that that is that is how I help students come up with like really interesting different dynamics. And yeah, it's like the X of Y's. I swear, like take every essay and even like no matter how stupid it sounds, be like, okay, does my love of frisbee influence my biogenetic engineering? No, no, it does not. That's okay. Well, you could try the other ones. My biogenetic engineering. It does like that kind of connection. That's what you're kind of looking for. And if you can't find that, if neither of these are working, I think your best methodology is to go back and create more drafts about more stuff about your life and just keep moving because this is a much more effective methodology than simply trying to sit there and put this all together on your own. Like I can do that as a
That's
professional
true.
writer, but I also think about it all day and I'm obsessed with it. It's like I understand that not everyone. That's what makes this process so difficult with personal statements. Most people like are not able to make complex narratives in their head because it's like it's their life's passion. Instead, you don't have to. You create the individual pieces of those narratives and then you can sit there and stare at things and think about that. And I promise you, having actually written this out and most importantly, knowing what you like and don't like seeing the final product of your UC essays or like your best version of it, it's gonna make it much easier to know if an idea works or if something if you come off the right way or if something yeah, like if it's you think it'll be effective. You can use your own judgment at that point because until you've written it, you don't really know. Like that's what this helps. Okay.
Right.
So then you have your idea, well, then you go write your personal statement. And I after the UC work, personal statement is all of August, and that is when you write your personal statement. Like nothing else comes that like it is time to do that. And you sit there and you crank it out until it is finished. Like that is important. But then you now head back to all the other school supplements. And this is where it becomes extra exciting that you've written a bunch of crap that you may or may not like and may or may not have used. That stuff still really helps. That is now the material that either you can just like, it's usually pretty rare you like copy and paste stuff over, but I guarantee you do like 6 UC drafts about like 5 different topics. You do your best. You upgrade 1 or 2 of them to the personal statement. Those other 3, even if you don't like them, well, you still care enough about them to write them and edit them all the way and didn't throw them away or whatever. So it's still there and you still know it. Well, now you're going to find yourself on the supplements and you're going to find a question that at worst will be like, I can use my UC one. At best will be like,
Mhm.
I think I understand. I have an idea here. Like my frisbee essay was crap, but now they're asking me about the community. Like I am on the frisbee like alliance, that kind of thing. Those
Yeah.
connections. Oh, the frisbee alliance would be legit. I read like the frisbee. I don't like frisbee alliance is the type of buzz term that I look at a resume and I'm like, yeah. Let's talk about the frisbee alliance. Like, well, we take ourselves very seriously. It's actually the disc alliance, and I was like, yeah, but Michelle wrote frisbee here. Like, no, it's the disc alliance. I mean, I tried to explain it. All right, I get it. It's my voice for I take it very seriously. Yeah, like that is, and then you're off, right? And also at that point you will probably have to write new stuff. But the actual large benefit is, well, you got going, and it is now September or October, and instead of just having like spent all this time either doing nothing or obsessing over the personal statement and getting one draft that honestly, most students who write the personal statement, it's not that they have no idea if it's any good. And then usually sometimes it's not. And then they go back and read it like they go back and read it in January or February or whatever, and they don't like it. It's not just because they know how much better they've gotten in this process since then. They wish that it's
Right.
the same thing I found on probably a shorter timetable. They find that they had wished they had written about something else or they'd taken another angle at it. And that's almost always influenced by the fact that they then had to go spend 3 months like actually learning how to write college essays, only to realize that the one that they just wrote at the very beginning without any idea how to even do all this, that wasn't their best effort. That is the
Yeah.
final little chunk of this is get going, students. Write your supplements out, like get creating content because all the stuff I talked about putting ideas together, that's crazy writer man. At the absolute worst case scenario is you need to be creating a certain type of content and understanding what that even feels like because you don't know. And like that is true. It's like no one teaches you how to write this style in high school. And that's probably I think one of the weirdest aspects of college admissions is that we basically our exam is about something that was never taught in high school. But that's not much you can do about that. The best you can do is basically create the shorthand content and trust yourself that that will lead to a better, smoother process. But on the other side, you need to get going because this is not type of episode, Michelle. This will be the third time I talk about scheduling, and I was sick last week, and now my schedule's all screwed up, which is why it's on my mind again. Yeah, like this forces you to get moving, and hopefully your goal should be that in September and October you are basically putting pieces together. September you're putting pieces together, and then October you're just like kind of chilling in a good way, as opposed to
Right.
I don't know what the opposite is if you don't get going now. Like I kind of learned that like my first year, and it was such a traumatic experience. I'll never learn that way again. But like, I do hope nothing else. I don't care how you do it, kid. Get going. Go write something. Like
Yeah.
I cannot like if you're listening to this, I mean it. If you don't go write something, turn this podcast off. Go write something right now if you get into college because that is if you. I know you're nervy about it. Like go do it. And go also the UCs are available 24/7. The
Mhm.
UC application. So it doesn't matter when you found this. You could be finding this it could be next March, and like you're like, I want to apply to college, but it doesn't matter if it's summer. Sure, go write some UC essays. Like that would be my advice or like I've had like 8 students who are already taking the LSAT just for funsies. It's if you want to if you want to learn about the college admissions process, you want to get your hands dirty at any point in high school. I recommend you go check out the University of California PIQ essay responses and try writing some. See how it goes, and
Yeah.
keep moving from there because that's my spot. Okay, thank you, Michelle. I think we're back with one more after this. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye. I am now taking on students for the 2025-26 college admission season. If you are a current junior who's looking for help specifically with their college application and essays, you should check out my website. It's collegewithmattie.com, and there you can see my services, my blog with other written posts, as well as book out a free consultation where you get a chance to chat with me and see how I might be able to help. Looking forward to meeting with you.